Hi, everybody. Are we back? Okay. That was a fun show, huh?
That was great.
She was amazing. I mean, I would have loved to have lived in her shoes.
I know.
With like
So
Motown
exciting to
folks
hear.
coming in and out of the house all the time. I mean, I would have enjoyed it so much. But thanks for being here.
Thank
I'm
you for
very
having
excited
me.
to have you on, Stacy. Stacy Valner. You were the founder of the Phase One Foundation,
Correct.
which you founded in 1999. Almost 20 years ago, you've raised nearly $20 million.
Over 20.
Over $20 million. That's pretty incredible. But what's more incredible, perhaps, is why you decided to do this in 1999 when you had 4 little kids at home, and what happened.
So I actually had 3. I had just turned 30 at that time. I had 3 children. They were
Okay.
1, 4, and 5.
But there was another one on the way eventually.
Yes, after the fact.
Okay, at least I got that right. Okay.
There are 4.
Okay.
There were 3. My husband had cancer, stage 4, testicular cancer, and he was diagnosed 1 week after his mother was diagnosed with an aggressive cancer. And so for 6 months, we sort of went through this catastrophic experience of my husband and his mother fighting for their lives. They were both treated very aggressively, and ultimately my husband, after 6 months, was in remission, and then about 3 days later, my mother-in-law died.
I am so sorry to hear that. What kind of cancer did your mother-in-law have?
So it was so aggressive. It was a very aggressive cell type. They could never find the primary tumor. So we
Really?
still, to this day, they could never find it out. It happens. Sometimes when these cancers grow that quickly, they just can't pinpoint it. So
When they initially diagnosed her with cancer, what did they say?
well, she had a large tumor in her abdomen, and so they were trying to pinpoint it, but it grew so quickly. And so here was my husband.
That's
so
heartbreaking.
Sick. It was horrible. She was young. She was 58. I had 3 small children. And so fast forward to once my husband was in remission, we started being invited to things, and I was 30, he was 35, and we were attending events for cancer with people much older than us, and we didn't feel like we were surrounded by our peers. So we decided to create something that didn't exist, and we formed our foundation, and we thought we would give it a go and have one event and hope to raise $50,000, and we raised $150,000 that first night.
You've got very nice friends.
Very. And then here we are, almost 20 years later.
Almost 20 years later. But what's interesting is Phase One, basically, you focus mostly on clinical trial cancer research, right? Which is very, very important.
It's very specific.
I was just reading, I think 2 weeks ago, the clinical trials that they're doing now at Stanford for all cancers. Did you read about that?
So I didn't read that, but I can tell you that everything begins with the Phase 1 clinical trial. Nothing goes to FDA approval and launches to the entire world until it's gone through these steps. And so if there were never to be a Phase 1 clinical trial, which is hard to secure funding for, then there would not be drugs that are on the market that affect everyone in our lives today. So we're sort of at that groundbreaking launching place.
So you raise money, and do you decide each year?
Multiple times a year. I was at UCLA yesterday. We had a fantastic meeting with their urology department. In the past 12 months, we've given a grant to St. John's for glioblastomas. We gave a grant at City of Hope for breast cancer, triple negative, which is very hard to cure and treat. We just gave an awareness grant on education and testicular cancer that was launched in the LA Unified School Districts that is helping underserved communities and young men who may not have an idea of what's wrong with them when they develop testicular cancer.
Right, they don't even know to give themselves, the way
Right.
we women test ourselves for breast cancer, if you will.
Right.
They don't know to test themselves for the testicular cancer. So
Right.
it's great. So you go into these communities and you...
So we created a curriculum that the LA Unified School District launched last year in 4 schools, and they're going to be going bigger this spring, and ultimately we hope that it crosses lots of young men who.
What age should someone start testing themselves, if you will, even
So
at
the
home?
norm is about 18 to 35 for testicular cancer. And that's a cancer that's relatively easy to cure.
Should you find it on
Should you
time?
find it? Even my husband was so advanced everywhere in his body, riddled with cancer. It was a long haul, but he was ultimately cured.
Do we have that clip of Alberto, her husband, talking about phase 1? Let's go to that clip.
I'm Deborah Valner, and I, along with a few other people, were the original founders of phase 1. A little bit over 18 years ago, my mom got diagnosed with a type of cancer that right away when we knew what she had, we knew that it was terminal. Unfortunately, 9 days later, I was diagnosed with what's known as stage 4 testicular cancer.
Wow.
We were both very fortunate, both myself and my mom, to be treated by amazing doctors at UCLA. So as a result of that, Stacy and I were incredibly grateful to the treatment that we received. And we really wanted to do something different, and we really wanted to give back.
I love his smile, just watching him there, because I know Alberto, and all the years I've known him, I knew that he had cancer. I didn't realize it was stage 4.
Yeah.
And that's tough to treat, but I guess he had some incredible doctors,
He did.
and you were very aggressive. They were very aggressive with the treatment, so he's
Yeah.
one of the lucky ones. So the fact that you can work hard to give back. Now, I know you have one event coming up, right? You've got an event March 6th, right? Tell me some of the events that you've got going on, and about the fundraising event that you've got later on in the year.
So on March 6th, we are having a very, he's a CBS correspondent, Dr. David Agus.
He's terrific.
He's down at USC. He's on staff there as well. He still sees patients. He just has a new book out. He's going to be speaking about cancer and health. It is a free event, and it will be on March 6th, and we're almost sold out.
And it's here in Los Angeles, right?
In Los Angeles. If you'd like to come, just go to our website, and you can register.
That's phase1.org.
phase1foundation.org.
phase1foundation.org. And that's in Los Angeles if you're in LA at the Griffin Club. Right?
Yeah, in Cheviot Hills. It's going to be really interesting, really informative. And then on May 3rd, we have an event at the Broad Stage in Santa Monica, and that's our big gala, our big fundraiser. We raise close to $1 million or $1 million every year, and then with that, we take our money and start the process. I'm head of the granting committee with Phase 1. There's about 20 board members, but everyone's broken down into different committees, and we start figuring out what we want to give money to, where we want to put our dollars.
So once you raise the money, and you said throughout the year you're giving money to various...
Yes, we give money all year.
How do you even choose? Because I can't imagine how you get overwhelmed. And everyone needs money, and they're doing terrific work. But how do you get around that?
Well, we have bylaws and rules, and we try and stay within certain borders. We like to, fund certain things that are going to affect a patient directly. But cancer's moving so fast, the research today, that things are changing. And so we are looking at things that are maybe right now a combination of in the lab and already in the patient, because things are just changing so quickly with immunotherapy. And so we just do our very best. Sometimes we want to fund something, we really want to fund it. And maybe there's one thing that just isn't right. Maybe it's a really promising trial, but there's something better out there. There's something that's going to make a difference quicker in somebody's life with cancer. So we just have to narrow it down, and then ultimately we'll vote on it as a board.
Are there any hospitals that you work in particular that you...
Yeah, so, we do a lot with City of Hope. Mm-hmm. We do a lot with USC and UCLA. Like I said, we just did this great brain cancer trial with St. John's. We have done things with Cedars-Sinai in the past. We endowed the chair there. So the Phase 1 chair is the head of the cancer center over at Cedars-Sinai. We'll look at anything.
What were you working with? You said you were working with brain cancer. What was that about?
So there's a new trial, glioblastoma. It's pretty deadly. It's pretty fast. Everybody knows John Maccain has it right now.
I have a friend who had that as well, and
Yeah.
she was young. So
And this Dr. Kasari is just looking at it from a different angle, and he's put together a clinical trial, and they are basically, from the moment of diagnosis, they're going to be looking at the tumor. Tumors change. They're smarter than us. They move so quickly.
yeah, they outrun you.
And they do, and they ultimately, in a lot of instances, win. And so he has a protocol that he's put together, combining immunotherapy with surgery and repeat biopsies, and he is just going to be sort of attacking the tumor more quickly and differently than it's been done in the past. So hopefully they'll have some good outcome.
Yeah, I was telling you, I read about a clinical trial that they're starting up at Stanford, where they're injecting they've been injecting tumors in mice. Injecting the mice, with
The tumor.
Yeah, and I need to read further about it, and you should read further about it as well, obviously.
Well, that's how almost every clinical trial takes place.
But that it was just obliterating the particular tumors in the mice, and I'd never heard of anything like that before, where it obliterates it. I've heard where it can shrink it, but and it didn't even have much information about it, so I didn't read any further on it. I thought maybe you might know something.
Well, one example is we just funded a clinical trial actually at UCLA in pediatric oncology in sarcomas, which are soft tissues. And so talking about how the lab is now more relevant to a patient directly. So each of these patients basically has their own mouse in the lab, and what they're doing is they're taking their tumor. Every cancer is different.
Every one of them.
Every single cancer is different. So they're taking the tumor, they're figuring out the proteins, the things that are making it work or attack the cells. And what they're doing is they're first administering a cocktail of chemotherapy in the lab. This is real precision medicine, and they're being certain that the mouse responds. And then that will be the personalized approach given to each of these young adults or peds with that type of cancer. I mean, it really has gotten to that point where it's such precision medicine now. It's really hopeful.
It's incredible work that you do. Did you ever envision that phase 1 would grow to be this big?
I mean, I never envisioned. It was funny, you were talking with your last guest, you know what you want to do when you're young. I never thought I would be a philanthropist or somebody who was interested in cancer or science, and I never wanted to go to med school. But, in the 20 years I've been doing this, I'm pretty educated now, as much as a non-physician can be. And every day I'm learning something new. I love it. I just love it. I can't even believe it.
Look, cancer, one way or another, affects all of us. So this is so important to give to. Tell me very briefly before I let you go, what was that like? Sometimes we were talking about it a little bit on the phone. When your husband was first diagnosed. It must have been one of the craziest times in your life. Mother-in-law was very ill. I mean, how do you get through something like that? And then I imagine that's what pushes you to the other side to say, I got to do something here.
Right.
I got to help people.
So I was obviously completely shocked that this was my life. I had these 3 small children. I was surrounded by really good friends and family. And I was lucky because my husband was always hospitalized for 5 consecutive days of chemotherapy. So there were, 6 nights a week we were out of the house in a hospital. You know what? I think I was really young. I was 30 years old, and I think I just was being a mom and trying to make it all work and making sure
you don't even think, you just go.
You don't move the kids and the turtle and the dog and the bird and all the animals to my mother's every 16 days, and then everyone would come home again, and we made parties in the hospital. My kids came every day. We just did what we could to get through it.
Oh, we're going to see Dad. Yeah.
And then ultimately, as I said, there are 4 children now. My husband and I had always wanted 4 children. We felt like cancer had sort of robbed us of that. We were in the middle of having children and living our lives. And so when my husband was in remission about 3 years, we begged the doctors to sort of promise us he was cured, which no doctor really will do.
And you got right on that.
But we sort of got a wink and and a yes, and we really felt like he wasn't going to have a reoccurrence. And so we had this fantastic, adorable little girl who's
She is
15
precious.
now. And then how
Miracle
do you
girl.
motivate? You know what? We gathered a group of friends and we said, we're young and we need to do something moving forward in our generation to make a difference for cancer research, because it's really a terrible disease. And sadly, I've lost so many of my friends who are my age to cancer. It's not just our parents.
It's not just our parents. I told you I lost a friend.
Yes.
And I have friends who are stricken with cancer and are fighting it.
Yeah.
And you're right. Every cancer is different.
Every cancer is
You
different.
funded what? You've over 33 grants, right?
Oh, yeah.
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 It's amazing
so
work.
I'm so proud of the work. The one thing we never wanted to do, we never wanted to be either only with one institution or only about one cancer. We always wanted to fund the best research out there at the best institution. And so rather than partnering up with one place, we always stayed independent. And that's why we get to fund such exciting things.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks.
I just really wanted to highlight what you do, because I'm always reading about phase 1, and I know that you put all of your life and effort into it. Do your kids work with you on this as well?
Yeah, now they do. I mean, it's really sweet to see that my 24-year-old, there's a junior committee who is very involved in it, and my little one, they do community service hours, they stuff invitations, they do holiday cards, they do fun, busy work with it. And yeah, my kids are super proud of phase 1. I mean, it's sort of been our 5th child in the house. It's something Alberto and I have done together now for 20 years. So it's really a big part of our lives daily.
And for people who can't come to any of the events, they can donate phase1 foundation.org. And any questions, your website is what, Stacy?
The same. You can email us. There's a contact us at phase1foundation.org, and you could follow us on Instagram. It's the handle's at phase1LA, and it's always ONE. That's what we do.
Thank you so much for being here. You do amazing work. I really
Thanks.
appreciate you
Thank
coming and
for
sharing with us.
having me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
And thank you for being here for another edition of Deborah Kobylt Live. Appreciate it. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.